No matter what they call it, no matter what they want it.
And that is, we just published a really good article on our website that looked at the impact of COVID-19 on the central nervous system. And yeah, that's it.
You
And
want to pull up in a laptop?
No.
Pull up right here.
Yeah, if you want to pull it up right there, that's cool. Basically, new COVID-19 concerns. Virus can attack the central nervous system with long-term consequences. And that's a big question that we're facing, in that this virus mimics a lot of other viruses, and coronaviruses in general, especially human coronaviruses, have been shown to attack the central nervous system. And, they're finding that. They think that's part of the contributing factor to acute respiratory failure, is that it's a neuro issue. But when you start talking about the central nervous system and viruses, you run into the very real risk that something similar to, say, a smallpox, that it can become latent in your spinal cord or in your cerebral fluid, and it can sit there dormant for an unknown amount of time and then reactivate. For smallpox or chickenpox, you get shingles. And so we're starting to see in other countries where people are getting this, it's reactivating, and they're getting a second round, and it's worse. And one of the concerns is that this virus could be hiding out in our central nervous system, which gets back to the whole thing that, this virus is serious. Regardless of your age, regardless of your health, you don't want to get this thing. And I know a lot of younger people feel like, worst case, I'm just going to get a mild symptom, maybe be asymptomatic, and I'm going to be fine, and I'm going to have immunity, and I'll be good, so who cares? Problem with that is we don't know if you're going to get immunity, and now you have this virus in your body that could be hiding out in your central nervous system, that could be doing neurological damage underneath the radar in your mind, and can lead to all kinds of problems later in life. From Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, we don't know. This is a novel virus. We've just started looking at it and trying to understand it. And now we know that it mimics HIV, it mimics Ebola in some ways, malaria. These are complicated viruses. They mutate a lot, and we barely understand the short-term consequences of it and are struggling to learn to treat it, let alone long-term consequences that we're not going to know until years down the road what happened. So, these younger people who just write this thing off like I don't get it, because you don't know what the long-term health consequences are of it. You could lose cognitive function 10 years from now. Who knows? But it's a very interesting article. Going back, taking a look at a lot of journals and things. It's a really good read. I realize it's a little technical, but it just kind of opens the door, sheds a little light on some of the real serious questions that we still have with this virus that people really need to think about when they're trying to determine what actions and things they should do in their own lives.
So if you really want to put it into perspective in terms of how this attacks your central nervous system and how it might affect you long term, think about things like when you play a sport and you get injured, and 5 years down the road you're still having pains from the injury, right? You're still having shoulder pains, you're having joint pains, you're having difficulty with certain movements, right? That's stuff that affects you for the rest of your life, but you don't really think twice about it because you know how you got it. With the coronavirus, it's this virus that affects you. You might be asymptomatic, but 10 years from now you might develop pneumonia. You might develop Parkinson's, you might have shingles, you might have, who knows, you might become sterile, you might have erectile dysfunction. I mean, they're talking about how it affects men in this weird way, and and it lowers your testosterone, and it blasts your immunity for your T cells, and it kills your sperm count.
So anywhere you have ACE2 receptors, with prostate, we already have enough issues with men and prostate cancer. It's a huge killer. It's a scary thing, and I think people are are being quick to say, oh, this is no big deal. It's like the flu, and it's not like the flu. You have ACE2 receptors in a lot of parts of your brain, especially in your neurons. And, we've had these reports that 60% of people who are infected with COVID-19 are losing their sense of smell. Well, that's an indicator that this is getting in through the nasal passageway into the olfactory nerve and going straight into your brain and your brainstem. That's a scary thing, because it could sit there, in a latent state for a long period of time and then reactivate. Meanwhile, it could be reducing your T cells so that when it does sort of resurface, your body can't fight it, and that's why we're seeing that second attack and your heart being so much worse. So a lot of long-term things we just don't know yet. So I would encourage people to err on the side of caution. Do no harm is always your first bet when you don't know exactly what's going on. And we don't know what's going on with the virus. So I wouldn't be rushing out there, to protest things and not wearing a mask and not practicing social distancing. Just not smart.
And there's this quote that we keep on our website. It's pinned here on a banner. I'll pull it up here. If you look right here, it's, in the coming weeks, we will never know if we ever prepared or overreacted, but it will become quite apparent if we underreacted or did too little. And that is honestly just a great reason to consider prepping, or at least learning survival skills, or learning how to at least stay informed and stay on top of modern events, current events, and things that are happening in your life and in the world around you. Because you never want to be caught doing too little. You don't want to have that type of regret. You have a responsibility to your family and to yourself and to those around you to contain this virus and to not get them sick as much as you can. So it's always better to try and do your part to the full extent. Wash your hands, don't be spreading it, wear a face mask when you go out if you can, and honestly take it seriously. I mean, I'm tired of seeing the people, that's just me personally, I'm tired of seeing people not taking this seriously, or at least not understanding social distancing, not understanding social cues. I mean, the few times we've had to go to the store, it's like every single time there's just people in there sitting around, having full conversations. I lost my microphone. Having full conversations, being within inches of each other, just talking to each other, yelling across the store, living their life like it's normal, and it's like your life is not normal right now. I understand wanting to get to a sense of normalcy. I understand wanting to fight for that normal shopping trip experience, the window shopping experience, looking at things, leisurely walking around the store, taking your time, but we do not have that luxury right now. If you do have to go out, you need to only touch the things you plan on buying. Keep your fluids to yourself and try not to get around too many other people. Like, respect people's distances and take this virus seriously, because we don't know the long-term effects of what it can have. And if you develop symptoms, if you get the virus, completely unwillingly, which most people will. I mean, I don't think anybody's willingly getting the virus. It would suck to 5 years down the road, you develop a super serious medical condition as a complication of you having, even if you were asymptomatic now. That's one of the possibilities, that you might not have symptoms. You might not ever go through the disgusting flu. You might not ever have the fever and the aches and the chills and the lost sense of smell. But 5 years from now, you might have Parkinson's or early onset Alzheimer's or anything. So if you thought you were relatively healthy at 35, you turn 40 and your life is essentially over because of a complication of this virus that you didn't even know you had, because you didn't take it seriously because you went to the beach the day they reopened it.
And what they're finding out is that the first thing the virus targets appears to be your brain. It's not your lungs. So you may be asymptomatic and you're not having any lung issues or whatnot, but that doesn't mean that virus isn't getting a foothold in your central nervous system. And it's a lot like investing in financial terms. You have to understand the risk and price that in order to make smart investments. And we're not trying to fearmonger. I'm not saying any of these things are going to prove to happen. I'm simply saying the science says these are all possibilities that we haven't determined yet whether or not they will. And you have to price that risk in to the decisions you make. And I don't see people doing that. And I understand we're people are tired and they're ready, to get back to life as normal. But there are unknown risks out there that we have to price in as a society and individually in our families.